Welcome to Königssee in Bavaria. We are deep in the heart of the German mountainside, close to Berchtesgaden, the home of German ice sliding, the oldest artificial track on the planet, and it is here that we play out the final dramas for round 6 of the BMW IBSF Women's Skeleton World Cup. Hello everybody, I'm Martin Haven, alongside me US slider Nathan Crumpton. He'll be sliding tomorrow, calling today's race at a really difficult, demanding track.
It really is. In third place, we see Lelda Predjelena finally having a great run. She's been in the top 10 all year, just about, now in the medal hunt, having a fantastic run. 8th best start, 3rd best at the finish with a 52.04 second run. Really looking to break up the German sweep on their home track here in Königssee. Sitting in 2nd place, we have Anna Fernstedt, the hometown girl, with a fantastic run. Not the fastest off the blocks, 21st best starting time, but finds great speed down the track. Sitting in 2nd place, 51.93 seconds, below that 52-second threshold. But the lady to beat today is Jacqueline Lolling, return of the Jack Attack. Here she goes with the 19th best start time, comes down in 51.71 seconds, finding all sorts of speed at the bottom of the track. Great Kreisel, great bottom, and she is in the lead at the start of the 2nd heat.
She wears the yellow vest of our World Cup points leader. One career win, and that came just a month ago in Altenburg, Germany, but she leads by nearly a quarter second. Look at the gap, though. If you had to have one woman not behind you by 0.05 of a second, you would not want Tina Hermann that close behind on this track. So Lelda Predjelena will have to fight for that medal. Also in the top half dozen, Japan's Nozomi Komuro, having her best run in half a decade. Disasters, though, for Great Britain's Laura Dees, and for Elizabeth Yarnold rather, and Maria Montejano, and the Virgin Islands, Katie Tannenbaum, do not make the 2nd heat. So 20 sleds go through, and Nathan, this is a difficult track to find speed. It's difficult to be clean, almost impossible, surely, to be perfect.
It is. There are actually spots on the track where you do have to take a hit. You can't necessarily take the clean line. And then Kreisel, right in the middle of the track. Make or break for so many athletes. It's so difficult for a skeleton sled to get through there perfectly. And it really goes to show that the Germans do have a tremendous advantage here.
Well, 2 of the 3 Germans were born and bred in Berchtesgaden. They went to a sports high school just up the road, literally about a mile away from the track. So this was one of their winter sporting options. No surprise that they are yet more illustrious graduates of the Christopher Schule. Our youngest woman in the field, Alina Tararechenkova, will be the first off, just 16 years old, the Russian, and she's here because Yulia Kanakina is at the Junior Worlds, which is running this weekend. Jacqueline Lolling, the leader, will be the last to go, ahead of Tina Hermann, Lelda Predjelena and Anna Fernstedt. And Hermann off 2 straight wins on this track, won both races here last year, ahead of Jacqueline Lolling and Marina Gilardoni. 2nd deciding heat, round 6 of the BMW IBSF Women's Skeleton World Cup gets underway. 2nd ever World Cup start for Elena Tararechenkova, a 16-year-old with just 7 races in her career.
Coming out of the start groove, using a little bit of a toe correction there. 5:17 start, not a bad start. Great accomplishment just to make the finals here in her World Cup debut. As she makes her way through the S-curves, low line into S2, getting some good height on S3 though, trying to keep it low in 4. Just taking a tap, sliders right, toe correction as she takes the bounce down through the bend away.
Of the slender number of tracks she has raced, she did race here in November, so she's been here once before in official racing.
Exiting out of Kreisel here, trying to keep that sled low, just gets it off the corner. Clean line through the chicane as she makes her way to the lower portion of the track.
Looking a little less tight and nervous maybe than the first. She was first out in the 1st heat, first out in the 2nd heat.
And she has nothing to lose here. She is in 20th position. As long as she doesn't get disqualified, she can go for broke here.
So 53.53. Her first heat was 53.44. We saw in the women's bobsled race earlier the track was slower in the 2nd heat. Although there's lots of snow and ice around, track temperature hovering around -1. She doesn't carry a lot of speed up to the finish there.
And that is warmer than it has been in training. We've been having morning training sessions all week where the ice has been a lot harder. Coming out of S4, takes that sliders right tap, which a lot of these ladies have been doing, and then you try not to break it in a skid as you make your way down the rest of the bend away. Taking that 2nd strategic tap, using her toes quite liberally there, trying to keep it straight as she enters into Jenner curve.
Well, not only is that straight not straight, there's your race leader, Elena Tarachenkova, but there's no gradient in it. There's no camber in the corners. It's just flat and skiddy.
Completely flat.
As Laura Dees proved in the first heat. Laura Dees from Great Britain, 3500s in front of Tarachenkova on her debut. Third fastest starter, a 5-second flat. Let's see if she can keep that speed a little further down the run and maybe pick up a few places.
Laura here looking for some redemption on her second run. She is a fantastic starter, but she's been having some troubles with the Kreisel, as many people have, myself included. It is an incredibly tricky corner. As she loads under her sled with, again, a 5-flat start that will be one of the fastest starts that we see all here today. The trick for Laura is carrying that momentum through the bottom half of the track. Yeah,
it's like carrying a basket full of eggs over a plowed field. It's not easy. Lots of height here in the S's.
Comes out, takes that tap, not too bad of a skid as she goes for the second strategic tap, using her toes, a little bit of toe dancing, trying to get the right line into Jenner here. And into the Kreisel, trying to control these oscillations just enough, using her toes, comes out, just squeaks by with just a small tap, and nearly a second in the bank.
Well, this is looking an awful lot tidier than her first heat, as well it should do. She's a former race winner at World Cup level, 1.1 ahead of the 16-year-old Russian. Now, this could see her live in the leader's box for a while. 52.5 compared to a 53.09, so 1900ths of a second quicker, and I think we will see that the track is probably, for most, going to be a little slower.
That would have put Laura in the top 10 had she put that time down in the first run. She should be much happier with that result, and maybe she can move up a few spots with it, too. Coming out of S4, getting a little bit of late height, taking that tap on the slider's right side, and then readjusting to get the strategic tap to find that good line through the bend away, just sticking her toes out, trying to thread the needle and enter into Jenner. Going through Kreisel, has probably her best Kreisel of the week here. Great timing, using her toe on the second oscillation, using a little bit of an up toe too. We haven't seen too many of those today. And a big smile from Laura.
There's Vache's mum, Rita, down there at the bottom in the red jacket and hat, as Jacqueline Narracott gets ready to go. And despite the fact we've got a couple of big gaps in the field, particularly at the top, we've got some very, very tight battles. Jacqueline just 100th behind the next slider who'll follow her, Joske LeConte of the Netherlands. She had a disastrous start. Sled popped out of the groove. Let's see if she can have a better run.
It's tricky sometimes. If you're not settled on your sled completely, the groove can kick you in one direction or another. We'll see if she has better luck this time around. She was well prepared for that. Dropping a knee into the sled and maneuvering it to make sure that the same mistake did not happen again as she spots her entry into the S-curves here.
Just 100th behind Laura Dees off a 5.09 compared to a 5-flat start.
Coming through S4, again taking a little tap on her right, then a tap on the left. Trying to get through there, using some toes, setting herself up for Jenner and into Kreisel here with 109.9 speed. Controlling these oscillations, the waves that you see. Making the exit, getting good speed out there. Just taking a little bit of a tap, but not bad at all.
1100ths of a second in the lead over Laura Dees. Can she hang on to the speed? Can she carry it to the line? Uphill now.
Coming through with a quarter of a second to spare into the finish curve and crossing the line with a much improved run, 52.24, and into the lead by 0.4 of a second.
And how much improved? That was 75 hundredths, 3/4 of a second better. So that's redemption. You don't want to go the other way around. You don't want to lose 3/4 of a second.
Definitely not.
That brings a smile to her face after the disappointment of the first run.
Good for Jackie. She should definitely be happy with that result there. Gives a good smile and a wave. Coming into Kreisel, nice entry into Kreisel. Using her toes, digs it into the ice, flattening the sled out, controlling those oscillations. She also uses that up toe in there. Right at the exit, just sneaking by, just gets a little bit of a bump, but sneaks her way through the chicane. No problems on the exit there.
Your race leader, Jacqueline Narracott of Australia. 17th after the first of the two heats in Königssee, Bavaria. Round 6 of the BMW IBSF Women's Skeleton World Cup. The Netherlands, Joske LeConte. Just one Dutch slider in the field this weekend. Kimberly Boss, her younger teammate, is at the Junior Worlds in Innsbruck, Austria. And both of them were in the top 10 last weekend in St. Moritz. 100th, her first round advantage over current leader Jacqueline Narracott of Australia.
loading onto the sled there. Nice smooth load, running nice and close to the sled as she makes her way out of the groove, just having a little bit of a drift, having to correct it so she avoids that wall as she makes her way into the snake pit, the S curves, coming through S1, going through S2 with a very nice line. You can see the bobsled lines that she's trying to stay in between. Takes it low, takes a little bit of a tap out of S4 and into the bend away.
Well, this straight is laughably not living up to its name. A series of corners.
Very much a dog leg straightaway here as we see Joska going through the Kreisel, using her toe, trying to come out a little bit of a skid, but avoids the hit as she navigates the chicane and into the lower portion of the track. 3200s back, so she's losing ground to Jacqueline Narracott, who is 3/4 of a second better on her second run than she was on her first. So Joska currently third on the splits, little bump in the final corner uphill to the line, and that will relegate her to third place. So Jacqueline Narracott leads, 52.95, Joska 100th faster on that run than on her first. So different bunch of mistakes. Definitely, and that's the thing that can happen on a technical track like the Königssee one that we have here today. As she enters Kreisel, using that toe on the first pressure, that's something that we don't see a lot of athletes doing. There's the second pressure, dropping that right toe, and then keeping it prepped for the third one as she exits just a little bit too high, comes out with some angle and a bit of a skid into the sled as she enters that chicane.
Keeping most of her speed on board there. She slips a couple of spots. Jacqueline Narracott leads. Olympic champion Lizzie Yarnold, dramatic exit off the Kreisel and upside down almost into the lower labyrinth in the first heat. She wants to reassure Nanny Rita she is okay. Mum Judith and Dad Clive are here this weekend as well, so just want to say hello to the rest of the Yarny army who'll be watching back home in Kent.
Lizzie also looking for some redemption. She'll be looking to move up a few spots here as she loads under her sled very quickly. Just gets to the crest. A very early load from Lizzie as we see her drift out to the sliders right out of that groove. 5:06 start. Solid start for Lizzie. Spots her line. Little bit of a waver going into the S curves as she just has to relax and build the speed through this swing set portion of the course.
She was 600s in front of Jacqueline Narracott of Australia from the first heat. A 10th up as she comes out of the S's.
One of the better bendaways that we've seen. Only one tap and getting within 2 inches of that slider's left wall as she enters the Kreisel. Good speed. A little bit of a skid on that second pressure. A lot of height. Oh no, and another tap for Lizzie, just having a little bit too much of an issue there on the exit of Kreisel.
Looked like Dad Clive looking in at the corner as she hit the wall down into the labyrinth. Now, is she going to stay in front? She is, but it's a long way to the finish line. And across she comes. There's her dad, in fact. There's another red coat, twice as loud as his. I can't believe there are 2 of them on the planet. 52.21, she takes the lead by 900ths over Jacqueline Narracott. That was her advantage as she lay down. She gained nothing in the length of the track here.
Very lucky to hold on to that lead there. An improved Kreisel for sure, but definitely not the one that Lizzie was looking for, as we see her coming up on the second oscillation here, drifting really high, not quite getting enough toe into the ice there, coming out and just clipping that slider's right wall, breaking the sled into a skid. Not the kind of entry into a chicane that you want to have, doing everything she can to keep the sled straight and maintain as much speed as she can.
Wow, yikes. Lizzie Arnold won her last race on this track. She takes the lead from Jacqueline Narracott. 15 sleds to come in round 6 of the BMW Women's Skeleton World Cup. This is Kendall Westenberg of the USA, third out of the start shed. Kendall was in the silver medal position a week ago in Samoritz in Switzerland, lies 15th after the first heat here in Bavaria.
Kendall coming off of her best finish ever. She had the time of her life in St. Moritz last week.
Don't we all?
Yeah, that is true. Kendall looking to move up a few spots here today. She may, just another racer just drifting right out of that start groove, but she doesn't overreact. She stays calm, spots her line, and avoids the hit on the wall as she enters the S-curves here.
Interesting, because how close the first corner is, almost everybody's in that right-hand groove there.
And it is pushing people. Oh, takes a hard hit out of S4, uses her toes, takes a late hit. Oh, she might have clipped that other side. She's still staying in the red. Maybe if she has a good Kreisel, she can recover. 109.2. Big waves. Really high on the exit and takes a hard hit out there. Oh, I don't know if this is going to be the run that Kendall wants today.
this is exactly the run she does not want. The first one didn't look great, and the second one is just compounding that problem.
Not the improvement that Kendall was looking for today. Just drifting a little bit farther back.
And that drops her to 5th out of 6. So disappointing second run to add to the disappointing first run from Kendall Westerberg, but learning all the time, as you say. Samarit's last weekend silver medal. That's you know, that's what you've got to carry with you, is that you know you've got the ability. Sometimes it just doesn't happen.
Right, that's what this sport does to you. Sometimes you're in the prime time of your life. Other times you're hitting walls like right here out of S4, taking a big hit in a skid. Kreisel just looping a bit too much. It's a good first pressure, but the second one just gets away too much on her. She rises way too high, dips down way low, coming out of the exit here, hitting really hard. I know all too well what that feels like. It's going to leave a big bruise on her right arm.
It's so much height late on there. That's almost panic then to try and get off the corner, isn't it?
It is, yes, and it's hard to avoid. I was doing that myself all through training. It's tough to avoid.
Listen, we just watched the Olympic champion do it. Kendall's got nothing to be disappointed about. Yelena Nikitina, fastest starter in the first heat. Start record holder at 4:86. She started 4:91 in the first heat. Will she get any closer this time to her own record?
Phenomenal starter, also coming out with the drift there. 4:91, fastest start time that we've seen today, tying her own time from the first heat, with 3/10 in the bank as she enters the snake pit here. Trying to build height, bit of a low line through S2, nice height through S3, trying to keep it low through 4. Oh, massive skid, just like we saw in the first heat as she takes that tap in the bend away.
Still in the early Tretyakov phase, greased lightning off the start, hits things on the way down.
Exactly. We'll see if she can save some speed. Big waves through the Kreisel. Just sneaks by, though. Not bad. A little bit of a skid, but all things considered, not as bad as some that we've seen earlier today.
You could really see, despite the rounded runners, the marks she left in the ice down through the little lower labyrinth. 900s behind. She's not going to come back from there no matter what she does. And third place, 52.61 at the line. Well, that's 2/10 better than her first heat, but Lizzie Yandel made a big improvement by basically not crashing in the second heat, and so she continues to lead. Jacqueline Naricot on her coattails, 900s behind in second. Elena Nikitina, 3/10 adrift in third place.
Not quite the result that Elena was looking for here on her second run. Exiting S4, instead of taking the hit, she just has a really long skid, probably worse than just taking the tap. Oh, and she can see it. Yeah. She realizes what happened too.
Yeah, it's all replaying in her mind. She doesn't need the screen. Lizzie Arnold leads with a dozen and more athletes still to come. 13th place after the first of 2 heats. Königssee, Bavaria, round 6 of the BMW IBSF Women's Skeleton World Cup is Annie O'Shea. Wants to be Jennifer Lopez. Probably slid a little like Jennifer Lopez in the first heat. I'm Martin Have, alongside me, her teammate Nathan Crumpton. What's she going to do? Where's her head at right now?
You ask these athletes what they're thinking about. Some people say, oh, I'm having Kreisel problems. Oh, I'm having bend away problems. Annie's just looking to have a solid run. Oh, another lady drifting out of that start. I asked her what her biggest concern was. Her biggest concern today was that her calves had shrunk and her speed suit didn't fit tightly. So that's where her head is at right now.
She was complaining yesterday evening as well about that. Through the 4 S-curves, long skid, but she pulls herself out of it.
As she makes her way down the dogleg bend away into Jenner curve, setting herself up for this big, tight 360-degree Kreisel, using her toes, dropping them, trying to maintain good speed. Beautiful exit. That's what we want to see from Annie O'Shea. That's the Annie O'Shea that we've seen before and we know can win medals.
There we go. It's a blind exit from Kreisel that wins you the speed down the bottom part of the track. 400s up to 1200s up over Olympic champion and current race leader Lizzie Arnold. She'd be the better part. Well, I was going to say 2/10 behind, but 52.27. Lizzie leaves the leader's box. Annie O'Shea moves in. So Lizzie has pulled herself up a few spots after the first run.
That's exactly what Annie needed to. She had a disappointing weekend. Last week in St. Moritz, Switzerland, looking for that redemption. Had a great run here. Solid start for Annie. Loading under her sled, gets a great load. Final step, nice and close to the sled. Comes out of the groove, getting kicked just a little bit to the viewer's left. The slider's right there. using a toe just to counterbalance the sled and avoids the hit on the wall.
45 hundredths better than her first heat. Annie O'Shea is your race leader. Top 12 still to come here in Königssee, Bavaria. This is Maria Orlova of Russia, one-time World Cup winner in her career. We've got 2 or 3 women in the career who've claimed a single victory in World Cup and yet to post another one. Hers was in Altenburg early last season. Laura Dees, similarly last year, claimed her first World Cup win, yet to be repeated.
Maria here also a stronger starter. She had a 5:03 50-meter start time in the first heat. It was the 5th fastest start time for these ladies. We'll see what she can do this run. Wow, 4:98.
That is a huge start.
Under the 5-second barrier. Fantastic start from Maria. She'll need that as she makes her way down the track here today.
Only 700 slower than Elena Nikitina, the fastest starter in both heats so far.
Coming out of S4, one of the nicer exits that we've seen out of S4, just a little bit of a wiggle trying to get the sled straight. Oh, using her toes, trying to stay straight as she enters the Kreisel here, but dropping into the red numbers and falling behind Annie O'Shea.
Yeah, dropping anchor all the way down the straight to stop it skidding. Oh, and a big hit as well as she drills the wall out of Kreisel.
Coming through C-curve into Echo, the lowest portion of the track. I don't know if she has the speed. Oh, a little bit of a skid coming out of Echo, dropping behind by a 1/4 of a second here, making her way up the finish curve, crossing the line in 4th place overall, 6th best time of the heat.
Annie O'Shea still leads. Maria Orlova 200ths ahead of teammate Elena Nikitina. So she slipped down to 4th position with 11 still to come. And that, again, indication of what a track of, well, I was going to say 2 halves, but several different elements here. It's like landmines waiting to trip you up, and they got her.
It's incredibly technical from top to bottom. You have to be on your game, and there's lots of places where you can scrub speed. But the biggest spot is right here, the exit of Kreisel. You have to nail it, and Maria just misses that exit. Both sides takes 2 taps, scrubbing precious speed as she enters the lower portion of the track. And I know all too well what that feels like.
Yes, she weighs 135 pounds maybe, and she just gets bounced up in the air as if she weighs nothing. Plus the sled, that's another 30-odd pounds. And that's why those hits cost you so much speed. 11 sleds to go here in Königssee, Bavaria. Former race winner back in 2007-8. So 8 years ago, Katie Uhlaender of the USA, back from a season away from the ice with renewed vigor.
Using a different speed suit today. We see the red, white, and blue, and that signature Katie Uhlaender helmet with the eagle on top. 5:13 start, just about the same as she had in her first heat. Katie vying for the top spot for the American ladies today as she enters S-curves. Going into S2, nice line through S2, trying to build that height for S3, and then keep it low in S4. Whoa, big foot wag right there as she goes through the dog leg, bend away, and nice and smooth, gets the line into Kreisel.
Heels apart as ever for Katie. This is her sliding style, very different from a lot of the athletes, but what works, works, right?
Absolutely. A lot of height there on the exit of Kreisel. Just manages to save it. Still seeing green numbers for Katie, letting the sled fly. Good form, tucking it into this uphill portion of the track. Oh, very narrow lead.
100ths of a second over her teammate Annie O'Shea. Who's going to lead at the line? It is Uhlaender by 900ths.
What a battle there.
Well, she set a 52.65 in the first heat, 52.25, 4/10ths quicker, and Annie O'Shea was 37 hundredths faster, so Katie just opened up another little chink of daylight to be the top American here today.
Exiting out of Kreisel, a lot of height at the end there, pushes her too far across, hits that slider's right side, then just threading the needle, trying to get back to her composed spot.
Yeah, got the Kreisel. That's where she picked up the speed at over 70 miles an hour. Katie Uhlaender leads a US 1-2. Still 10 sleds to come here at Königssee in Bavaria, round 6 of the Women's Skeleton World Cup. Well, not much sun visible on the mountain, and that's one of the reasons why, despite the warm temperatures, this track survives so well. It's built at almost exclusively ground level. I mean, this was the technology in the mid-60s when they designed it, but they built it on the north side of the valley here, so it's always in the shadow, and that's what keeps it raceable, Nathan.
That is, and it is known to have some warmer temperatures here. The air temperature will get above freezing. And the other thing, it is quite humid sometimes too, and it takes a lot of prep to get the track nice and fast here.
Pew pew indeed. Katie Uhlaender, your race leader, from Annie O'Shea and Lizzie Yarnold. And actually, Katie and Annie are only 900ths apart. Anybody who comes now is either probably going to beat both of them or neither of them. That's a very narrow margin for them to drop into. But this short track does produce some very tight results. And in fact, once we get into the top 10, from 9th place, Jane Channel, up to 5th place, Elizabeth Vache, her teammate, we've got 6 athletes covered by a 1/10 of a second. So there's going to be a few more going up the ladders and a couple more slipping down the snakes. It's not a US, you don't understand snakes and ladders, do you?
I do get the reference, though, snakes and ladders, yes, the old childhood board game.
All right. Obviously, invented after John was a child. So we've got 10 to go, and in the top half dozen, we're going to have to kind of hold our breath and keep our powder dry a little, because we've got a couple of girls who are on a really, really big first heat performance, and we don't want to jinx them in any way. But what goes through the athlete's head? What goes through when you've had that really smooth run and everything just flowed? You go, oh, it's so easy. How do you capture it?
If you have a great first run, the best thing you can do is try and replicate it. If you made some mistakes, then you hope you can improve upon it. So it's going to be a balancing issue for all of these ladies as they enter their second heat.
Blue skies, crisp ice, Königssee, Bavaria, round 6 of the BMW IBSF Women's Skeleton World Cup. Into the top 10 with Belgium's Kim Malmens, 10th place after the first heat. She's 900ths out of 9th.
Great result so far for Kim here. 5:12, solid start for her. This is her home track. She has probably hundreds of runs down this Königssee track here. Going into the S curves, trying to build a little bit of height. Beautiful line through S2, looking good through S3. Trying to keep it low. Nice exit. Oh, staying, flirting with that wall, but just manages to get through and sets herself up for Jenner and the Kreisel.
She was 1300ths ahead of current leader Katie Uhlaender from the first heat. She carries that to the Kreisel, but Uhlaender was clean on the exit, and so was Malmens, 1200ths up.
Beautiful looking lines there from Kim. She does know this track inside and out. You can hear her head dragging on the ice as she makes her way through Echo. Nice line out of Echo, building the lead. 1/4 of a second for Kim here. She's going to be pumped as she crosses the finish line here.
Now, although she is Belgian, she did grow up here in Berchtesgaden. She started sliding on this track. Winterberg's closest geographically to Belgium, but this is where she learned to slide with the Germans, who are her rivals here. That was a really nice second run to push Katie Uhlaender out of the leader's box.
She showed it there too. Top 10 finish for Kim. So pumped. Blows a kiss to the crowd. And that is a tremendous weight off of her shoulders. Here's where she gained a lot of speed. Through the Kreisel, second oscillation, drops that toe at the perfect time to redirect the sled, dips down again, and then drops the toe to exit. Buttery smooth and clean right through the chicane.
She knows the German lines, and that's because the Germans taught her. Kim Malmens leads. 9 to go here in Königssee. Martin Haven and Nathan Crumpton from the USA, who will be sliding tomorrow, watching the action in the women's skeleton race. Jane Channel of Canada getting ready to go, and from her to teammate Elizabeth Vache in 5th, there are 6 athletes covered by just 1/10 of a second. 700ths of a second is the blink of a human eye. That's how close this is.
Jane had a fantastic start, 4.94 seconds in the first heat, second fastest start of that first heat, and she'll need every little bit that she can get to try and bump herself up in the order today.
Queen in the background, that could be replicated by her heart pumping inside her head, I think. That's all she'll be hearing as she gets blasts off the top. 497, another big start from Jane Channel.
Blistering starts from Jane here. Fantastic athlete, and really coming along as a slider as well. We'll see if she can put it together here on run 2 as she makes her way through the S curves. That swing set feeling that you get coming through there, it's one of the most fun feelings you get in skeleton. Oh, hugging that right wall, takes a late tap coming down the bend away, but recovers nicely.
3900ths of a second ahead of Kim Malmens. Can she match the Belgian girl down the track? Big height in the second oscillation.
Comes out. Oh, he just bumps out. Oh, no. Really rough ride off of that exit of the Kreisel. Getting jostled all around there. We'll see if she can hold it.
Well, watch that half second disappear down into single digits. Oh, and behind by a dozen hundreds. Wow. And that That was just a disaster. Off her best result of the season last week in St. Moritz, she drops 4 places with 8 to go, so she will be probably in 12th position.
Oh, Jamie's not going to be a happy camper today, and that just goes to show how important that exit of Kreisel is, and that if you miss it, even by inches, it can spell disaster. Exit of Kreisel there just crosses way too strong and flips onto her side. Oh! Big bruise on both sides.
Yeah, gets thrown back onto the sled as she hits the wall.
Oh, tons of action. Just clips the sliders right. Mirror image of what we saw Liz Yarnold do. Flying through on your side. One runner up in the air. And oh, she makes contact with that slider's left wall.
Yeah, that at 70 plus miles an hour is going to leave her battered and bruised. Janine Flock of Austria. Silver medal on this track 3 seasons ago. Her last big result in a track that doesn't really give her quite enough to use her aerodynamic abilities. But she's got a good start, and she's a very talented driver.
She's a fantastic driver, and as I mentioned in the first heat, this is one of the Austrians' essentially home tracks, even though it's not in Austria. They're so close to Innsbruck that they get a lot of runs here, and Janine has plenty of experience as she makes her way out of curve 1 and into the S-curves on her Bromley X18 sled. Through S1 into S2, a little bit of a low line through S2, nice height through S3, staying low, takes that tap out of S4, which has been giving a lot of people problems. Big tap, oh no, the skid down to Jenner, setting herself up for Kreisel. 110.1, not quite the speed that she was looking for, but if she has a good exit grid, she may be able to reel it in. Ah, looks like she's
skid on the exit. 1100s up from the first heat. She's not going to have enough speed, is she, to hold off Kim Malmans, the current leader? No, she drips into the red, and you can't get speed going uphill. If you don't have it, you won't get it.
It's going to drift away even farther for Janine here today. Oh, dropping a quarter of a second into second spot.
Well, that was only 900ths of a second slower than her first heat, but she had the potential to go quicker. But the exit of the Kreisel, and Nathan, it must be almost impossible to judge that perfectly because you can't see the corner you're aiming to get right. You just have to get off the corner by instinct.
Correct. It is a blind exit from Kreisel. You have to do it by feel. Here she is coming off of the corner. She skids the sled. Instead of taking that hit, she skid it, and then she hits the left side instead of the right side that we've seen most of these ladies hit. And oh, just scrubbed so much speed there. Oh, poor Janine.
Yeah, big skid off the Kreisel. That's like putting on the brakes. So Janine Flock walks away. She loses 2 spots. A spot. Kim Malmans still leads with 7 to go. In this tight top 10 group is our most recent winner of 4 different winners this season from 5 races. Mirella Reniva of Canada, World Cup rookie, crushed the field like they were also Rans less than a week ago in St. Moritz.
What a fantastic season Mimi is having. This will be a great test to her actual driving ability. This is such a driver sled. She has a fantastic start, which we've seen before. She has an unorthodox style as she runs kind of wide from the sled, using her toe to correct herself, getting under that 5-second mark, 4.98 seconds.
And she loads so gently onto the sled as well, never seems to disturb it.
Here she comes, going through S3 to S4, taking that little tap out, using her toes, and then the second tap, trying to maintain that line through into Jenner and into Kreisel with 110.8 speed.
First heat advantage, 1400ths. She'll be 4/10 in front, 4400s. She's added 3/10, and that was a great exit from the Kreisel. Mirella Reniva is going to move up the order.
It was a beautiful exit of Kreisel. Great looking line through Echo here and maintaining that velocity as she makes her way through the uphill portion, the final 2 curves of the track. And wow, half a second into the lead by Mimi.
51.74. Her first run was a 52.38. That's nearly over 6/10 of a second quicker.
What a fantastic run. Mimi's got to be pumped with that. That was the perfect exit to Kreisel.
Listen, if St. Moritz had never happened, she'd still have 2 silver medals this season as a rookie.
It's unbelievable.
2 bronze, rather.
And to think that she was so nervous coming onto the World Cup this season, not knowing what she was going to get here. Explosive start, uses that toe, stays off the wall. The Canadians, some of the best starters in the field.
51.74, 51.70 was good enough to lead the first heat.
Fantastic
That's
job by
an
Mimi.
awesome run. run from Mimi. So 6 to go. Karela Reniva of Canada,
hi,
your
Tony.
leader.
Everyone back home, love you guys.
Martin Haven, Nathan Crumpton watching the action. 6 to go, the final run of the Women's Skeleton World Cup in Königssee, Bavaria. Big day potentially for Nozomi Komuro. Career best in World Cup, 4th in Lake Placid in 2010. She's only had 5 races here in her life. The last was in 2014.
Nozomi on the cusp of a great finish here today. We'll see what she does in her second run. She stays calm. That groove is acting up, and it's throwing these sliders to the sliders right exiting as she enters the S-curves here, trying to build some speed. She is a quarter of a second behind now, but some good driving could bring that back. I don't know if it's going to happen. Mimi did have a fantastic run. Takes a little bit of a skid, uses a toe to correct it, takes a late hit there, and is going to have to take a second hit in the bend away.
Yeah. She's being, I think, artificially misaligned because the speed of Mimi Reniva had potentially a first heat race winning run, but losing a little bit of pace here. Nozomi Komuro is going to drop 2 or 3 spots.
Nozomi just didn't have quite the speed entering Kreisel. She was about 2 kilometers an hour down, and she's drifting farther back with those errors at the top of the track.
Agonizingly slowly towards the line. 52.60, 2400 slower than her first heat, whereas we just seen Mimi go 6400s faster. So an 8/10 turnover, and Nozomi drops to 5th position with 5 to go. Still a top 10 result, her 3rd best ever World Cup result.
Coming out of S4 just takes a little bit of a tap, but this is where the speed starts to drift away when she takes the skid. Did not have enough speed coming into Kreisel here. Uses her toes. She manages the Kreisel quite well, but did not come out with enough speed and just drifted away all at the bottom for Nozomi. Good line through chicane, setting herself up for the bottom of the track, but unfortunately it had drifted away.
Mimi Reniva of Canada leads, 5 to go here in Königssee, Bavaria, and Elizabeth Arce racing for her late cousin Justin, who passed away during the week. And a very emotional week for Elizabeth. Mum Risa is here trackside with her, but top 5 position for our 2-time race winner this season.
Liz, so much running through her mind this week and for this race. Gets a very early load onto the sled. I can imagine that she might have wanted to run that a couple steps deeper. 5.09 though, not a bad start for Liz. Actually marginally faster than her first heat as she enters the S-curve.
Starting to wonder whether a couple of athletes are running out shorter to get settled before the groove runs out so they are ready not to get popped into the wall.
It's possible. The coaches could have warned some of these ladies that the groove is acting up and they want that extra time to get settled and set their line.
Just 800s behind Mimi Reniva, her teammate Reniva, the winner last week in St. Moritz by a landslide. Oh no! The most horrible exit of the week so far for Elizabeth Arce.
Oh, dropping into the red. She just had way too much height on the exit of Kreisel there. And it's just going to bleed all of her speed. She comes out too early of Echo, takes a little bit of a skid there. Poor Liz.
And without that speed off the Kreisel, you don't have the control at the bottom. Yeah, Mimi knows how hard that's going to hurt mentally and physically. And Elizabeth Arce went from 600s up to 1.16 behind. She drops 10 spots. Very disappointing second heat for her. Other things on her mind this week, understandably.
Liz coming out of Kreisel just has way too much height, gets airborne with her sled, and she nails that slider's right wall. Just rough chicane, just getting wish-washed all the way through. Drills it, ice getting kicked up into the air. The sled coming off the ice, her legs flailing in the air. Oh, poor Liz. That looks like one of my runs yesterday, unfortunately, and it's not a fun place to be.
Martin Haven and Nathan Crumpton watching the women's skeleton race in Königssee, Bavaria, round 6 of the BMW IBSF World Cup. 4 to go. The race leader is last week's winner, Mimi Reniva. Now the Germans have their say. This is Tina Hermann, last year's World Cup champion and the winner of 2 races on this track in the World Cup last season.
Very wobbly start for Tina there, 5:14. I don't know what happened off the block, but she looked completely unbalanced, trying to get a little bit too much energy into the sled perhaps. Only 7/100ths of a second lead as she enters the snake pit here, the S curves.
900s out of the medals in the first heat, but a big, I'm not sure I've ever seen a German skid like that.
She's trying to put a lot into the sled in S4, trying to keep it straight. Great speed, though, 111.2, some of the best speed that we've seen. Taking this classic German line nice and low through the Kreisel. It's a beautiful Kreisel, one of the best that we've seen today. And she should have great speed for the bottom of the track here.
Big speed in the Kreisel, 69.1 miles an hour, comfortably the fastest we've seen, and she's running away from Mimi Reniva. This is Hermann going for the medals, and that is going to be hard to beat. 51.57 would have left her nearly a quarter second in the lead after the first heat.
That is a much better run by Tina. I think she's going to be happy with that from top to bottom, other than that little bit of a wobbly start off of the block.
Less unhappy anyway. Yes. She was gutted after the first heat. Is there a little smile? A hint of one, yes.
Wave to the crowd, thanking the fans here that have come out to watch today. Tina.
She slides for the Königssee Bob Club.
Here she goes. She just has a misstep on,
stumbled
right on the flat there. Got very lucky to stay behind the sled and get a good load. That could have been a disastrous run, and she made the most of it.
So big day now for Latvia and Lelda Predjelena. Her teammates, Martins and Thomas Ducours, are regular medal hogs. Lelda Predjelena lay third after the first heat, the only woman in the field who could separate the Germans from a clean sweep. Can she prevail over current leader Tina Hermann?
This may be the biggest run of Lelda's life so far. Great looking push, great load on the sled, but boy, does she have her work cut out for her as she drifts and she takes a little bit of a tap out of the groove. Gosh, that groove just pulling some of these people just a little bit too hard.
Reigning junior world champion, 1100s up on Tina Hermann, but it's not what she's got here, it's what she gets below the Kreisel that will win, lose, or draw for her.
Beautiful S4, one of the best exits that we've seen. Takes the tap, stays in the green so far. One of the best looking bendaways that we've seen so far.
Only 600s ahead onto the bendaway though. What can she carry out of the Kreisel? Will she still be in the green? Hits the wall, a 10th behind.
Oh, she had a little bit less speed than Tina going into the Kreisel, and that tap is not going to help her either. We may see Lelda here drop behind a spot or two. She's trying to hold it together. She drifts even further behind, 4/10ths back.
This is going to drop her at least 3 places down the order it does. A 52.33 slide, 3/10ths of a second slower than her first heat.
Only 8th best of the heat so far as she shakes her head as she makes her way to the finish dock.
And that's what practice and experience gives you. That's why the Germans are hard to beat on their own tracks, because they've got consistency from repetition.
This is such a hard track to be consistent on. She does have a great push, fantastic form. She does drift here out of the start groove. You just see the sled just go sideways. It gets kicked sideways, and Lelda takes that little tap, and that can throw your rhythm off for the whole run. Exiting Kreisel, takes a bump there, loses some valuable time and valuable speed for the lower portion of the track.
Lelda Predjelena slips, and now it is Germany leading with 2 more German athletes to come. So which of our Germans will win? Tina Hermann, 2-time winner last season, Anna Fernstedt, who's never won a World Cup race, or Jacqueline Lurling, who won in Altenburg for the first time 3 weeks ago. It's going to be one of them. Nathan, where's your money?
That's a tough question to ask. If I had to say, I might say Jacqueline Lurling, but Anna could pull an upset here. She had the 21st fastest start time, one of the slowest ladies at the top of the track, but she shows what a phenomenal driver she is by getting great speed at the bottom.
5:29 the start, couple of hundreds quicker than her first getaway.
She's fallen behind by 600ths of a second already, but we'll see if she can build the speed. Fantastic looking lines through the S curves. Good looking line, stays off of the wall, takes a late little hit, little toe correction, but not bad at all coming through the bendaway.
Like Tina Hermann, the 20-year-old from Bavaria, she slides for the Bob Club in Berchtesgaden, so this is her home track. Good exit off the Kreisel, still a 10th behind. Can she bring it back? Can she keep her position ahead of compatriot Tina Hermann? Big height.
Good looking lines coming out of Echo, brought it down to 400ths of a second as she makes her way up through the finish curve, crossing the line.
Oh, 100th of a second behind. That is tough. She'll be in the medals. Jens Müller knows that Germany will have at the very least a 1-2.
does not get any closer than that 1/100th of a second. She was reeling it in.
World Cup rookie, this will be her first ever World Cup medal. Anna Fernstedt's best results, Lake Placid and Altenburg, 4th positions. Now she is in the medals for the first time in her young career.
Here she is, coming through the S-curves, critical portion of the track, trying to build as much speed as possible. Beautiful, smooth lines, holding her form fantastically, making her way into that final S4. Controlling the height really well, doesn't take the hit, and finds herself in medal contention.
Last year's double winner leads. Anna Fernstedt gets a huge hug from Katie Uhlaender. It's Tina Hermann, Anna Fernstedt, and now Jacqueline Lerling, one-time winner in her career. She won in Altenburg earlier this season, runner-up in last year's World Cup campaign. She's leading the chase for the Crystal Globe this season. She wears the yellow vest of our points leader. Can she claim win number 2 and stop Hermann's streak on this track?
Jacka trying to get as good of a start as she can off of the block here. She's been working so hard on that start, but her driving is top of the field, and if anyone can reel it in, she already has 3/10 in the bank, despite only having the 19th fastest start here in the second heat.
Tina Hermann started 5:14. She was 600ths of a second, so 800 slower, but as you say, as the only non-Bavarian in the field, she still led after the first heat.
Flirting with that wall, does take the tap on her slightest left as she enters into Jenner here and into the Kreisel with the best speed that we've seen so far, 111.6 kilometers per hour. Exiting Kreisel, that is textbook. That is doing it right there.
How can she make the track look so wide? That's ridiculous. Jacqueline Lerling, 70 miles an hour, dives out of the Kreisel, continues to lead. The gap now grows again. She's going to win by getting on for half a second from the double winner last season. Lerling wins 51.51. She improves on her own first heat by 1900ths of a second as Germany sweep the podium.
1, 2, and 3 for Germany. Really goes to show that home ice advantage. Jacka is going to be over the moon with that result.
Germany have not swept the podium in 15 races here. I don't have stats to go back any further. They've been on the podium, they've won, but they have not had a clean sweep for almost this century.
Huge smile on Jacka's face, positively burning down the track today. Gives a thumbs up and a wave to the crowd. She is on top of the world.
Win number 2 of the season, win number 2 of her career, and her teammates on either side of her on the podium. They were the two that battled for supremacy last year. Tina Hermann won the season and the World Championship. Jacqueline Lerling right behind her. She's still to win on her home track in Winterberg. Missed that opportunity this year, but that surely will come.
What a run by Jacqueline Lerling as she hugs the crowd.
Yep.
Just over the moon.
And a green jacket there, Barbara Niedenhuber, another Bavarian product of the Christopher Schuler, one of the legends of German luge. And she's very active with the track here and with all the youth programs. But Jacqueline Lerling, wowza, what a second heat that was. If she hadn't got an advantage, Nathan, she would have built one in that.
Phenomenal racing, some of the best lines that we've seen all day. Makes me jealous just looking at them on the TV screen here. Beautiful exit of Kreisel, textbook chicane. Does not get much better than that.
Well, Tina Hermann improved to go from 4th to 2nd. Anna Fernstedt claims her first medal in 3rd, but her 2nd career win. Jacqueline Lerling continues to extend her lead, slender though it is, at the top of the women's rankings, as she claims win number 2 of the season, going away. And look how close. Hermann and Fernstedt 100th apart for the silver and the bronze. And Mimi Reniva up to 4th place, ahead of Lelja Predulena and Nozomi Komuro, slipping down to 9th position. Lizzie Arnold climbing after her first heat disaster up to 11th. And our youngest athlete, Alina Tararechenkova, rounds out our top 20. Anna Fernstedt, bronze medal, couldn't quite defeats Tina Herman, but then Herman's got the better part of a decade more experience than her, and that's all part of it, isn't it, Nathan? Knowing, not even thinking, but feeling exactly what to do where.
Exactly. It's a veteran move by Tina coming back. She did make some mistakes in the first heat. She was shaking her head. She was disappointed with how the run went. But being a veteran, she was able to come back, correct those mistakes, bumped up a spot, but only by 100th of a second. That is as close as skeleton racing gets.
Could have had a dead heat, but and we have had before in this track given away 2 silver medals, but not in the last dozen years in women's skeleton. So Tina Herman's run at the top is broken. Jacqueline Lurling, who took silver in both races last year, finally steps up to the gold medal for the 2nd time this season, the 2nd time in her career. And the girl with the most wins on this track in the last decade, in fact, is Noelle Pikus-Pace. In fact, Tina Herman has tied that now. Anja Huber with 2, Noelle with 2, Tina Herman with 2. Marion Thies, the big one, 2011, won the World Championships here in Königssee, Bavaria. And the World Championships return as well in 3 weeks' time. We go to Eagles next week, a week off, and then the World Championships start. So back to Berchtesgaden. Always a big and knowledgeable crowd here. It is a really difficult track, and as Mimi Reneva, Lauda Pregelena, Kim Marmans have proved by being in the top half dozen, it's not exclusively a German-owned autobahn, but the Germans really did put on a sterling performance this afternoon to take a 1-2-3 result that has eluded them in, well, every race for a decade. Königssee, Bavaria, race 6 of the BMW IBSF Women's Skeleton World Cup. Jacqueline Lurling claims her 2nd career win, and she continues to extend her lead in the World Cup standings. Tina Herman, in the silver medal position, remains 3rd and closes a fraction on 2nd placed Janine Flock. In fact, Tina moves up from 4th to 3rd. Elizabeth Archer slips from 3rd to 5th behind teammate and rookie Mimi Reneva, who is having a stellar first season, something I'm sure that Elizabeth Archer herself can relate to. I'm Martin Haven, alongside me Nathan Crumpton. Nathan, apart from the obvious, any hints and tips for your race tomorrow?
Oh, it's all going to come down to that Kreisel exit. It's where the race is made or lost, and it's given me trouble, but these Germans have it nailed down, and that's where they won these races today.
Yeah, carrying speed from here down the bottom of the track is so hard, and yet, look at this, Jacqueline Lurling just makes it look like it's the easiest corner sequence on the planet. Stunning result by Jacqueline Lurling. Tina Herman in the silver medal position by 100th ahead of Anna Fernstedt. Fernstedt on the right, Herman on the left. The Bavarians 3rd and 2nd, 100th apart, but it is from the Hochsauerland, from the Winterberg track, Jacqueline Lurling, our World Cup points leader, who takes the gold medal in a German 1-2-3. Dress rehearsal for the World Championships? Well, if it is, Jens Müller and the rest of the German coaching staff will be as happy as the athletes. And that's it. We head next with the girls to Eagles in Austria a week from now. Join us then. Until then, thank you for joining us. Thank you too to Nathan Crumpton for words of wisdom. I'm Martin Haven. We'll see you next time out. Bye for now.